One of the things that I'm most passionate about is the conservation of the ecosystem balance and essentially keeping nature the way that it either God intended it to be, it so happened to be, or whatever you want to believe in. I truly think that the Anthropocene effect of the humans, you know, putting our egos and our power imbalances upon nature, I just don't agree with it. I think it's just generally wrong. Treating nature as a resource rather than a thing to be a part of and to give back to rather than just harvest and harvest. So that's when I kind of decided that I wanted to make my own little documentary about the last remaining animals of of England, of the UK, and kind of go to this place called the Forest of Dean, which is on the England-Wales border, and it's bloody massive. Like, I went there a few days ago to do like a recce, which when you make a film, you go there, you do like a little reconnaissance thing, you check it out, you get your location sorted, everything like that. And then, for the main shoot, what's good and what's not good and where to go and what not to do. And I learned a lot of things, and I had a really, really great few days hiking and camping, and I'd just like to tell you a bit about my story of that. So to get to the Forest of Dean from London, you have to either drive, which is about 3 hours, or you can take public transport. I don't drive, so I took a train to Gloucester, and then I took a 1.5 hour bus from Gloucester. And it honestly was not too bad. Like, the bus journey was amazing. You pay £2 and you get like a whole hour and a half coach trip along the River Severn, which was really cool. I got there, I turned up, I had this whole time as well, I've had this massive backpack, which I'll show footage of, I'll show pictures or videos of. And in there, I was carrying my tent, I was carrying an inflatable sleeping mat, I was carrying a sleeping bag, some food, a little bit of clothing, and camera equipment. This whole time, one of the main reasons for this trip was so that I can take these wildlife cameras that I have, which are like motion detecting, infrared, absolute amazing machines, and put them in the Forest of Dean, so that when we go back at the end of the month to shoot the actual documentary, we will immediately have a reserve of footage when we get there. So we can basically go there, collect the cameras, put the footage on a hard drive, and then we know kind of what lives in that part of the forest and what to look out for. It was really, really lovely. I carried all that stuff and it was quite heavy, but I took this walking stick with me that I was actually given when I fell down the side of Mount Snowdon and broke my ankle last September. And it's the first time I've actually been out walking since. So my ankle held up really well, mainly because I used the walking aid and I used it properly and I was careful and I was very sensible. Lesson to you all: if you're going hiking, don't assume that your feet are strong. Don't assume that your feet have a brain of their own. I think that's what I did. I when I would walk, like when I went up Snowdon, and I was walking, I wasn't really paying attention to what my feet were doing, because you kind of assume that your feet know what they're doing and your brain can worry about everything else. But it's not the case. Not the case. Maybe it's just me. I need to go home because this can't move any direction, because I fell down there, and yeah, fuck. So when I got off the bus, I carried my big bag and I walked just straight into the forest. You walk in and it's basically the part I went in. It's like kind of on the south side of it. You go in and it's just immediate pine all around. You're surrounded by 100 upon 100 upon 100-year-old pine, and they just tower above, and it's just the most amazing thing. I absolutely adored it. I immediately felt like I was in Colorado or something. It was just out of this world. And I was walking along, getting deeper and deeper into it, and it's getting nicer and nicer. And then I went down this little pathway because I was looking for a specific cave, because someone, a little tip, told me that this cave might have bats in it, lesser and greater horseshoe bats. Now, I went there, didn't find any bats. I searched it and I searched it. I didn't find any sign of bats, any scratchings, droppings. I found some cool mushrooms, like mushrooms growing from the ceiling, which were pretty fucking cool, but nothing mammalian, unfortunately. I did, however, on top of that cave, like the cave was kind of along a hillside, just going into it. So when you continue to go up the hill, just above the cave, I did that, and I saw a red fox. Well, he saw me first, and just scurried off. And I slowly kind of tried to like curve round and follow the fox's path to meet him again. They're just too good at hiding. They're just built for it. And he probably went underground anyway. So I had no chance. But then I just hiked and I hiked and I hiked, and on the side of the hill, like the other side, I came across my first boar. Like there is a family, well, many families of wild boar that live in the forest. One of the main reasons we're actually filming there, because wild boar that have been, I think they got let out of a farm a few decades ago, and they've just completely overtaken, and they've transformed the forest into something beautiful. Like they terraform the landscape in a way that not many other mammals do. They like plow the earth to allow new growth and nutrients. They grind down trees with their tusks. They shape the tree stumps into like beautiful kind of like star-shaped spiky things that almost looked like the horns of a deer. Speaking of deer, there were a lot of deer. Didn't come across loads, but I saw them in the distance because they're very obviously, like, they spook really easily. I saw at the bottom of the hill, I saw just a parade of fallow deer, which are the spotty ones, just running across. And they kept going and they kept going and they kept going. And there must have been, God, there must have been 50 of them, I swear. So they must stick together. I saw a live boar. I was coming across the side of the hill, and I came across my first boar, and it was dead. And it almost looked like it had been walking along. It probably died of natural causes because it looked quite mature, and I couldn't see any signs of struggle or any piercings, penetrations, incisions, anything like that. So it's probably natural causes. And it kind of, when I came across the guy, I thought, oh shit, I've come across a sleeping boar. Let's be quiet. I get out my camera and I slowly advance towards it. And then I began to realize, oh, it's just dead. But the presence of a large mammal like that on the forest floor, just slowly decaying, slowly decomposing to fungi, bacteria, microorganisms, insects, all kinds, birds, everything, they all go for it. Just slowly giving back its nutrients back into the ecosystem. It's great. The things that we need more of are these uninterrupted processes of nature, right? Like, take, for example, you own a house, and that house was once built on woodland, right? There were once trees right here, which somebody, once upon a time, they came up, they chopped down those trees, they built your house upon it, or they built a different house upon it. You then have rainfall, which comes across the roof and goes into the guttering, and that guttering can sometimes get clogged up with things like leaves. Those leaves then can host a great supply of animals, including birds, because birds love to take the leaves, they love to make nests, and it's very good for them. But naturally, our instinct as humans is to take the leaves out because we've built a functioning system and we don't want any natural process to get in the way of that functioning system. And that's essentially the cause of it. That's I'm not saying let your guttering clog up, because you need to have water disposal, that's sure, but it's that kind of microcosm that it expands and it expands and it expands, because where once your house stood, those birds will have lived in the trees that had leaves, for example. I just walked and I walked and I walked, and eventually I got to this very, very dense part of the forest, which was full of like a lot of young trees, but they were densely packed together, and it seemed quite good shelter. And although it was on a hill, which was a bit of a mistake because my sleeping mat kept sliding down in the night. It yeah generally was beautiful. So I pitched up a tent. I lit a very small fire, literally just because it was so cold, and I just wanted to just warm my hands up for a little bit at the very least. So I did. I just dug a little pit, had a very small controlled fire, and then waited for it to go long out because it's very important if you do fires in a place like that. Make sure it's out, cover it up, make sure it's not even smoking or hot because it's not this time of year. A forest fire wouldn't happen, but you just don't want to take any chances and again, make any imbalances. So I set up my tent and I was just going for a walk through the forest because it was pitch black, and I was cold. And when you're cold, the best thing to do is get up and get moving. So I discovered that I learned that the hard way on this trip. Is if you keep moving, you can wear nothing, but as long as you keep moving, eventually you'll just be warm. So and keep eating, just eat and move, and you'll never be cold. So I just was walking through the night and through the woods, and I came across a lady boar who was running up the hillside with a few of her little piglet babies. And they didn't see me at first, but then she turned and she saw me, and she kind of hid partially behind a tree. I hid behind a tree. I didn't realize I was hiding behind a tree, but I was. But then I stood out from beyond the tree to essentially just stand my ground because I was only there for a night, and I wasn't gonna be fucked about by any boar. So I just stared at her. She stared at me, and then she ran off, and her children followed. And I think she just wanted to check on me and make sure I wasn't, hunting her children. Which it's chill. It's really chill. I didn't mind I didn't mind the kind of interrogation she gave me. It was very, very called for. The next morning, I was slowly woken up by a host of birds. There were robin, long-tailed tits, great tits, blue tits, a lot of tits. And they just kind of woke me up slowly. It was absolutely beautiful because I was in a tent, but the tent's like thin plastic. You can hear everything that goes on, including I heard boar in the night walking around me and huffing and puffing. It was kind of scary because they're about as big as me. They probably weigh more than I do. Alexa, how much does a wild boar weigh?
A wild boar typically weighs between 180 pounds and 390 pounds when fully grown.
Alexa, 390 pounds in kilograms.
390 pounds is about 177 kilograms.
Shit. When pine trees get really old, they lose the lower branches, right? As a lot of trees do, but pine specifically. So what that means is they get really, really big, and then they only have leaves and branches from about halfway up or a third or 2/3 of the way up. So you're given this kind of amazing space when you're walking beneath them, where you have so much headroom, and then you have a canopy of pine above you, and it creates this gorgeous kind of dappled sunlight which is consistent across the woodland floor. And what that means is that moss can grow where it's at the bottom of the valley, and fuck me, it grows. The soil there, which is constantly upturned by boar, is so fertile and so aerated and so just washed through and reuptake and recycled and beautifully managed by the animals, that the whole floor is just covered in loads of species of moss. I haven't seen that much moss in my whole life, that many different species. It's quite amazing. I ended up walking from my camping spot all the way up to the local town called Colford. Then I got a bus from there, which I thought was going to take me up to a brook up north. But I got on it and it just started going south, which was great for me. But then I got off, I just went for a little walk to see what area I was in. I checked my phone and I realised I was actually near a different local attraction called Puzzlewood. If you've not seen Puzzlewood, it's a part of natural woodland which is on top of a rock, and it was a Roman mining site. But it was also like the area, it's a natural rainforest, and it's got fern, moss, really beautiful kind of plants there. and it was used in a lot of films. So they shot one of the Star Wars films there. They shot Harry Potter there. I think there are many more, but I don't really know because I don't care. All that matters is my film is shot there. Fuck the rest. I mean, yeah. So I went to Puzzlewood, which is when I found out it was closed, which is when I also found out that it had been commercialized and you had to pay to go in. If you're a subscriber of this channel, you probably know that I don't respect the commercialization of nature and the commodification of nature. So I just walked through an adjacent farmer's field, and it was pastoral farmland, just some sheep knocking about. I went through there, hopped a barbed wire fence, and before I knew it, I found myself in the forest, which actually took me by surprise because I was walking through there and it was generally absolutely beautiful. All of it, apart from the barbed wire, was lovely. And so you go in, immediately there's dips and there's little troughs and there's little valleys, absolutely beautiful. I realised after a while that I wasn't actually in the Puzzlewood bit. I was the bit I was in was the bit that hadn't been commodified for nature, and I found that out. Commodified for nature, commodified for people. I found that out when I was just walking through, and I came across just a pit, and the pit had a dead sheep in it, which must have been a sheep that had escaped maybe from the farmland next to it, or maybe a sheep had died and a farmer had dumped it down there. I don't really know, but there was a sheep down there and it was decomposing. It had its ears being chewed off, it had its eyes plucked out, and it was just generally rotting. But honestly, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, because it was just one of the kind of thing you wouldn't get in most woodland nowadays. If there was a dead sheep there, they would just kind of want to get that out of the way because it would upset people. But this is the way of like the birds of prey that live there, the falcons, the not the heron, the buzzards, those ones, all those, they love that. That's like meal for them. That's what they eat. That's what they need. And it was just there. And obviously I'm not interested in a dead sheep. I aren't going anywhere near it. Not for me. But if I was a fungi, if I was mycelium, if I were a bird, I'd be all over it. And I just think that's so valuable. But yeah, then I got a bus up north where I should have gone in the first place. And I just started walking up this hill. I just kept going. Eventually, gorgeous view of the River Wye. The whole valley, you could see all of it. It was amazing. I had a really nice time hiking. Genuinely, it sounds cliche, but I've never felt freedom quite like it. Like having all that stuff on my back, knowing that if anything goes to shit or I get lost, I can just set up a camp and sleep and it's okay. Really just freeing experience. It also just taught me that I was right when I thought to myself that my East London upbringing was a bit limiting, and I always used to look out into the back garden and occasionally you'd see a red fox, and I would just think, surely there's more to nature than this. And teaching me that I was right, it's just the most valuable thing ever. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching my documentary when it comes out. It's going to be out probably in May, maybe April. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.